All right. So, hey guys, thank you again for joining our podcast. Got a new person actually stepping up for us. Shelly's out. She had to go on a vacation somewhere down the bottom. And she'll understand that joke actually once she hears it. But actually, back to the episode of We Think Differently. Is that a problem? I got a young man on here by the name of Frank. So, Frank, introduce yourself, my friend.
My name is Frank Henry. Um, kind of did it a lot up until this point. 34 years old, been to college, dropped out of college, had jobs, got fired, going into the entrepreneur phase, which I think everybody takes.
All right, listen, man,
Uh,
I really appreciate that honesty up front. Just bam, just hit you with a smack. This is who I am.
well,
All
well,
right.
that's kind of my life, and I would think a lot of other people's lives. Is just submerged in perseverance. Um,
Absolutely.
And whenever I meet anybody, that would be one of the first things I want you to know about me. Been through some things, but here I am, smiling.
Yeah, man. Good deal. Good deal. Same here. I like that attitude. It's actually kind of refreshing, to be honest with you. Um, the attitude of the old is, man, just today's the day, tomorrow's tomorrow. Only thing I can do is
Yeah,
do the best I can today, and I hope to see you tomorrow. That's pretty much it.
I get a lot of how young I look and so forth, but I like to think I got that old mentality, that hard hat mentality. Just put your head down and keep going.
Good deal. Good
You
deal.
you kind of perish in this country that we live in today if you don't do that. No.
It'll eat you up. It'll eat you up, man. Um, you know. But today, this is what we're going to talk about. This is a topic that, in all honesty, some of it's interesting, some of it is relative, but it kind of reflects to what's going on recently. All right, we're going to go through a couple of topics, and this is an opinion show, guys. So basically, if you have an opinion, disagree, or anything, put it in the comments. Let us review. We'll actually follow up and we'll respond. The other thing is that the topics today is aliens. All right, if we believe in them, what's their function? What uh, kind of consequences have evolved just due to their possible interference. But before we go any of that, what I want to talk about recently is I believe it was the space voyage around the moon recently. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, back in, we all understand or remember when the moon landing, I believe it was in the 70s or 60s. My timelines are all messed up. One thing you'll know about me, I have no concept of time. All right. But that being said, let me ask you a question, Frank. First of all, did you watch it? Did you watch any of it?
The recent around the moon
Correct.
voyage,
Mm-hmm.
no,
Okay.
no.
Um,
I heard bits and pieces as far as news, but I didn't check it out. Had a
all right.
bunch of other distractions going on.
No, no. I mean, listen, life is life. I didn't even know they actually, and this is how would in congruent to what you're saying. I didn't even know that they were up in space. Right. I mean,
I like to think we're always there, whether we go out of what is it, orbit,
yeah.
that's when it's newsworthy.
Right. 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 Exactly. You know what I mean?
Uh,
So if they traveled around the moon, I didn't even know they were up there. The only thing I heard is when they were coming back. And my first thought was, here we go, this fake stuff.
is
All right.
so to skip some things, right? It's they always say that when they talk about the the possibility of the first moon landing being fake, right? They always say, hey, it would have been super hard to fake a moon landing back then, you know, because of the technology where we are as as a civilization and so forth. You get up to today, and we don't even know about this until it's coming back. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
The dubious nature of it is there. It's already there. So
yeah, I mean, technology is a lot better. I mean, but if you actually, and this is the funny thing, right? Um, you know how certain movies try to make it grimy to make it real,
mhm.
right? You call that B movie, right? You looking at it like, man, they tried to make blood. It was it just ain't real. You know what I mean? That's how that moon landing or moon circling or trip was to me. And the reason is even on the landing, I caught the landing part.
Mhm.
All right. It's amazing to me, right? People in a capsule, right? A rocket
Yeah.
busting through the orbit, traveling around the moon,
Mhm.
coming back. Okay.
Yeah.
Going through the atmosphere again. And the thing that stops it are 8 parachutes, right?
You know,
One layer deploys, three, and then a layer of 5 deploy, and it just, hits hard and splashes, right?
mhm.
Also, this is a weird thing to me, all right? Satellite communication, cell towers, right? Things are communicating, satellite radio, satellite phones, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
How come when they hit the atmosphere, communication stops?
I didn't know that part. Hmm.
There's a blackout period. Oh, there's no communication, blah, blah, blah. Huh? I personally don't understand that portion of it. If we can
Mhm.
communicate to a person in orbit or on the moon or receive information from satellites at Jupiter, quote
Right.
unquote, how come we can't hear radio through the atmosphere as they're traveling? I don't get that. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, it's not logical from, people that aren't rocket scientists like
A
us.
layperson like myself, it's
Yeah.
not logical.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist. I don't know if there's, you know, acceleration of molecules and all that quote unquote stuff, BS. But in all honesty, there's certain things just don't make sense to me.
Yeah. When I can't deduce how something happened with the limited knowledge that I have,
Yeah.
it it, it just seems suspect.
Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
very least, you
Right.
know.
Right. 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 Right.
And just it's just hard to trust NASA, the government, even SpaceX is creeping into that realm of, yeah, I don't really trust anything you say. Can you show me? Can you take me there?
I
When
don't know about that taken because I remember a couple people wanted to go to see the bottom of the ocean and see what happened to them. You know what I'm
I,
saying?
honestly, going down or going up, you're risking your life. you know, it's
Right,
like just keep going sideways. It's the safest place to go.
right. Yeah, I
You
mean, so
know,
I don't know. I don't know. But I
but
mean, stuff
it's
like that just, it's, other than the fact is, or even the moon landing. All right. So you're saying that a capsule jettisoned 3 to 4 different fuel cells,
mm,
travels, this object is spinning, all right? The way we land, right? You understand what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
they landed on the moon. First of all, I don't know how, all right, because they don't use parachutes, right? The moon supposedly does or does not have an atmosphere. Somebody tell us that in the chat. right? And then it lifts back off, lifts back up to go to Earth. But the way it lands, right, is with parachutes hitting the water.
Hmm. It has to be an orbit thing. Has obviously do with gravity. So if there's no gravity on the moon, I can imagine
There has to be
having,
gravity on the moon.
well, less than Earth, maybe.
Right.
So whatever propulsion system that we currently have, however advanced or unadvanced that is, once we start talking about aliens, um, that has to do with how they land. You have to
I
take the
mean,
propulsion, orbit, and gravity, and then maybe you have some semblance of a idea of how that happened.
it's kind of like this, right? The space shuttle was basically a plane,
Yeah.
all right, and supposedly it flew around the Earth, connected to space stations, right?
Hmm.
But it can't make it to the moon, right? We need another object to make it to the moon. Now, the space shuttle lands like a plane,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But the thing we sent to the moon that supposedly went around the circumference of it, even when we landed on the moon, it comes back as a capsule with parachutes. I don't
Hmm.
understand, and that's because I'm not a scientist, but from the eye test, something seems kind of fishy.
Hmm. Well, again, limited knowledge, but
Yes,
I
yes.
did hear something about or seen a video to something about a slingshot operation, right? You ever heard about that? Where
Yeah,
they were saying,
they got that from Star Trek.
yeah, I know I seen it in a movie somewhere, but
Yeah.
I did hear maybe it wasn't a government official, maybe it was like Neil deGrasse Tyson or somebody that
Mhm.
said that in order to get further than the moon, we would need extra velocity. So maybe that's what they were testing as far as doing this. There's nuclear bombs in this theory and all of that stuff that he was saying, but he
Yeah.
was saying initially you need extra velocity and you would need to kind of slingshot around something. So maybe
Well,
that's what they were doing.
yeah, I mean, in the because the gravity kind of speeds you up,
Yeah, yeah.
kind of it's either the fuel or the slingshot. But in Star Trek, the slingshot was so they could go fast enough to go back in time. They, I'm serious, man. They slung
I
It was
I'm
a
laughing because
slingshot around the sun. It was one of
uh-huh.
the best scenes in Star Trek, right? The sounds and all that. I mean, it was awesome, but
I'm laughing because I have our government down for taking a Star Trek reference and thinking that they can replicate it.
oh
Seriously,
man,
I just
listen, I think most of the stuff that I think most of the stuff that we see in movies, people try to replicate, or I think
uh
there's some type of correlation, right? Um, I'm
uh
telling you,
it could be the chick it could be the chicken or the egg type of concept going on.
yeah. Right, like right now, man, I'm like, should I be stocking up and building me a zombie apocalypse shelter or something? Because that's the new story, right?
For the last 10 years, it's been nothing but zombie apocalypse shows and movies.
Right,
Seriously.
right. You know what I mean?
You might
Something,
be onto something.
right. Should I be
No, no,
paying
no.
attention?
There's a college that has a zombie apocalypse protocol. I think it's Cambridge, um, or the University of Boston. One of those. It's somewhere on the East Coast. They have a zombie apocalypse protocol.
Oh, see, I got to look that up. See, when people with money start worrying about it, that's when you need
Uh,
to worry.
but no, you know what I want to know that what was going on during the first moon landing. I want to know where was the economy, because I do think it's two sides over there on Capitol Hill, right? I think there is a side that's trying to further the advancement of human civilization. Like, hey, we need to travel to the moon. We need to get to these other planets. We need to see if we're the only ones out here. And
Hmm.
then there's an economic side that says, hey, if we act like we're doing this stuff, or if we fake something like the moon landing, that'll give a boom to the economy. Humans will start just buying crazy and selling crazy, and then now we can actually build a spaceship that can slingshot around the moon in 70 years. Um, so I'd really like to know where the economy was, or if we were on a down spiral before they were like, "Hey, we're going to the moon."
I mean,
Because right
for my
now the economy is like shaky. So it's like, all right, let's pull out our big joker, moon landing.
well, listen, man. In all honesty, most times the things that I've seen, or at least have some remembrance of, anytime that there was some type of jump with NASA or something like that, the economy was doing bad or so,
Yeah,
right?
wonder if there's a pattern.
I think there's a pattern between NASA and war. All
Hmm.
right. I think economy, when the economy's down,
Yeah.
right? There used to be an old saying that, two things can definitely jump the economy: space travel in the 60s and 70s, space travel, and war, right? Um, a lot of the concepts that we are familiar with don't change, right? Like when there's movies, right? There's only 8 storylines in movies, right? Boy loves girl, girl loves meets a guy, that type of thing. 8 storyline. Same thing in this type of scenario, right? The economy works pretty much, up, down, up, down. What makes it go up? War. I mean, from a standpoint, you can charge more for stuff, blah, blah, blah. You're bringing in money, you're selling stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
And
funny.
as a day trader, I can attest to that. Like,
Right, right,
we
right.
have been on the uptrend.
But I think, you know, um, anytime that there's a lull in the economic status, interest rates go up, people not making as much money as they want, people unhappy, crime going up. All of a sudden, you know, the US has to dominate and give people capitalism or freedom, right? That's always the speech,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As you have people, and we're getting off topic, as you have people getting deported, right? It's one of those things, but you know, um,
It's so subjective though. You know, we have certain words like freedom. Um, and you can line up, I don't even want to say 100 people. You can line up 10 people, Unc, and they will say freedom is this, freedom is that, freedom. It'll be 10 different things, so maybe there's a foundational, universal, or general consensus on what freedom is, but
mhm.
maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just beauty is in the eye, freedom is in the eye of the beholder.
Nah, freedom's freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, there's different degrees of freedom, but freedom's freedom. Um, it- you know, but
How
freedom costs. It's not free, which is kind of ironic.
maybe that's where the disconnect comes in at, because it's like freedom, it's hard work.
Yeah,
It's
it
definitely
ain't
not
free. You got to work
free.
for it, and this is the funny thing: the more money you have, the more free you are, right? So, you know, we try to say that freedom's for everybody. It should be. I mean, just like water should be. But we pay for water now, so what I mean. If you ain't got no money, you ain't. And
Uh,
listen, if you ain't got no money, your water's not working in your house, right? Water's not free. You know what I mean? So, it's just amazing at the hypocrisy of it all. But back to aliens, back to space and all that. I think it's all fake, to be honest with you. If we
Yeah.
went into the atmosphere, fantastic. I believe that. I don't believe that, and people are going to laugh and blah, 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 blah. I don't know, man. I've been lied to too much in my life to believe this, and just certain things just don't make sense. The more I know, the more I'll believe. So, definitely educate me, people. And it's my own ignorance in per se, but I just look at things, you know, 1 + 1 = 2. That's all.
My 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 take on it is we've drastically messed up the timelines, and that's what caused so much suspicion or just downright doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you have one timeline that has bits and pieces of information, but then you bring in more information, but you don't know if it matches up with that timeline, but you might have a reference from the initial bits and pieces of information that touches the second one. So you're like, oh, that's the same timeline when you can't really prove that. So we have too many theories. It's become saturated with people that want to capitalize on the curiosity of ancient civilization or aliens. Um, I lean more towards interest and just curiosity. I haven't stated my vote yet. Um, I like to leave the door open, because it's entertaining. Such people like Billy Carson, who we talked about before, um, and his uh, adversary, with his name is Wes Huff. That's who kind of shut him down on that one podcast. But
Mm-hmm.
then you have people like Graham Hancock,
Mm-hmm.
people like Mike Heisner, who's less popular. They've found evidence that, hey, we don't know where this spaceship came from, or we don't know if this video was fake. There was no uh, what's it called, the photo editing software. There
Right,
wasn't
right,
any
right, right, right.
when they found these pictures and so forth. So there's just too much to be like, hey, this is all fake. But as much evidence as there is to say that it is fake, there's the same amount of evidence to say, hey, we're on to something. So I just like to stay on the fence. I don't like to stay green. I'm not an idiot or a fanatic. Um, but there's something out there. And if there's not, then I go towards another theory that I have, which is touching on where we come from and so forth. And that's how I like to tie religion into that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but right now, there's so much headcanon that everybody's spreading towards each other, and that's when it comes down to, all right, all this is just BS. I don't want to listen to any of it. um I'd rather stick with something like religion or another uh I don't want to say societal device, but for lack of a better phrase, um something that keeps me grounded and not in fairyland.
All right.
People like facts.
You know what? People like facts, but people need hope, and that's where sometimes faith comes in. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, Aliens, I think there's something out there. I don't know what level, what frequency they're on. And what I mean by that is that to believe that this is the only existence, this is the only way it is kind of closed minded.
Yeah.
All right. And what I mean by that is that, in all honesty, you can go as far as aliens, ghosts, and all this, right? All that stuff out there, right? Spirits, energy, and aliens from other planets. It could be other frequencies. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Dimensions, realms.
Right, right. That's what I mean, like frequency, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, because you know the old story of what the gray men, right? One minute they're
Yeah.
there, one minute they're not. You know, that sort of thing. They're standing in the
I just recently ran into the gray man videos and stories and stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, you hear all that stuff, and you know, tracking and bio, and you know, doing experiments and stuff like that. I don't know about that. All right, I do believe that I do believe that there are possibly other existence, just where they are and so forth. I'm not really sure, but I'm not really confident in the fact of people being kidnapped and being experimented on and then given back, right? I do believe in dimensions, kind of like what is it? The what do you call it? The Bermuda Triangle,
Mm,
right?
mm, okay.
Um, Different frequencies, dimensions, depending on the time, depending on, you know, blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's so many things that I don't know as into magnetics and you know what I'm saying? You just can't,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not a mathematician, but to believe in something like that is not far-fetched because a long time ago people didn't believe that it could rain on one side of the street and not on the other. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? Like that was like, oh man, you know, you making that up. No, I've seen it. You know
Right.
what I mean? Right
Yeah.
now it's just like, oh man, that's just so cool. Like it's no big deal.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? But
But
back when, I mean, it was a miracle. You know, what happened, you know. So I think as time goes on and so forth, things might come true. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, right? Let's say that was because I also remember it raining on one side of the street when I was living on Market Street. So I couldn't have been no older than 9, 10 years old. Um, but I had to experience that in order to believe it, right?
Hmm.
But and let's say the 20 years since I was a little boy and seen that, more people have seen it, which means it something like that is probably reoccurring more. Um, I like to think that same concept of something just happening more and more as we get older and we're the ones that are identifying it. That is that same thing has been happening from the first time somebody said, "Hey, I seen a UFO" to today.